today to celebrate Kashimo being animated into Jujutsu Kaisen. We are going to be putting him in a matchup against Yuta, right? And this will be specifically culling games. I think that there is interesting arguments and things to be spoken about them and culling games. I think it's an interesting topic. I've built together a few arguments and I'll talk about all of their abilities and techniques in this video. I hope that you watch and stay till the end. And if you like this type of content, I would appreciate a sub or a like and comment down when you're finished with the video. Let's get to it. Now, first, let's talk about Jujutsu knowledge in general. When talking about knowledge in the overall art of Jujutsu, I am referring to how knowledgeable both combatants are on barrier and innate techniques and cursed energy. In terms of knowledge, we are already aware Kashimo is an incarnated sorcerer from the Heian era, with extensive knowledge on Jujutsu. Kashimo has a cursed energy property, which is rare in sorcerers in general. Along with this, Kashimo also can cast Hollow Wicker Basket, which is a counter to domains and a shred effect. Kashimo also does not have a domain, but he makes up with this by being capable of creating a can't miss attack with his lightning that somewhat works like a domain. Kashimo can also use RCT to heal himself in terms of what he can do in all aspects of Jujutsu. Now, Yuta, on the other hand, has a domain expansion and RCT, and as well has Rika, who is a special grade curse that he can completely control. In terms of Jujutsu knowledge, Yuta's more impressive factor in my eyes is the capability to output positive energy, which only a very small amount of sorcerers can do. And when I mean small, I really only mean like 2 other sorcerers besides Yuta himself. When comparing these two, I do think a domain with a short hit and outputting positive energy just kind of overshadows all of Kashimo's knowledge on Jujutsu, since we are aware that a domain is considered the highest level of Jujutsu, and reverse curse technique is somewhat implied to also be something that is hard to be obtained, and in this case, Yuta can also output it to an extreme degree. But even without that, having a domain with a short hit should be by default just better than what Kashimo's can't miss lightning strike, since it lacks a barrier and doesn't increase his curse technique or his output. So here we will talk about things like their reserves, output, and reinforcement over their cursed energy. Starting off with Yuta. He has stated multiple times to have even more cursed energy than somebody like Gojo, and even is compared to a bottomless well when it comes to cursed energy. This is reinforced every time somebody comes in contact with Yuta. This allows him to have overwhelming stamina and allows him to use a plethora of cursed energy more freely than even most special grade sorcerers on his level, without the output of his techniques dropping significantly. His reserves are also pretty bottomless as far as we are concerned. When he is fighting Ryu and Uro, we can see he can refill his cursed energy completely by manifesting Rika. So even if he runs out of cursed energy, he can just well it back up with Rika completely. Rika should be also included since she also has an absurd amount of cursed energy just like Yuta, even with being able to refill his cursed energy. Now moving on to output. And before I fully get into Yuta's, I do want to thank a friend of mine named Jen. He educated me on the subject of what output actually does for someone's physical and not just their overall cursed energy, cursed technique output, or cursed energy output in general, right? Taking that into account against his fight with Ryu, he is capable of going relative with him physically, with Ryu comparing Yuta to a huge water tank when hitting him. Why this is so important and good for Yuta is due to Ryu being stated to have the highest output in the Culling games, and Yuta can clearly take Ryu's attacks and even deflect his Granite Blast with his bare hands. This is directly after his fight with Kuro, so he is still fatigued and drained from healing and hasn't fully manifested Rika. Yuta's reinforcement should be relative with that of his bottomless cursed energy, since stated by Yuji he is constantly imbuing himself with cursed energy, reinforcing his body and his katana and his cursed energy, which probably attributes to why Ryu calls him tough overall. Now, talking about Kashimo, his cursed energy amount should have quite a decent amount, just going off the fact that he's capable of fighting Hikari while he's in Jackpot and keeping up with him without tiring out much. There's no accurate gauge on his cursed energy amount, but I'd say at the bare minimum they are at least moderate or above average. Or another way we could go is just to say he has pretty good reserves, since he does use a few dozen of his electricity cursed energy attacks. His output is pretty high, I'd say. He He was capable of just shredding through Hikari's body time and time again, even when he was in his unkillable mode. Also, I should note, Kashimo can charge up his electricity attacks to make the output stronger and faster, is what we can see when he fights Hikari. We can't gauge how big the boost is, but I'd say depending on the charge up time, it varies, but we do get a statement that alludes to Hikari having the higher output, since Kashimo says he can just completely negate his cursed energy trait. Kashimo's reinforcement is probably one of the best things about him, due to the fact that he was capable of hanging with Hikari with unlimited cursed energy and being able to withstand the beating he was giving to him, plus the fact that Hikari's cursed energy property makes his hits even more insufferable. Now, moving on to innate curse techniques and barriers. So, we have pretty much gone over everything, but lastly, we must talk about their innate techniques and their barrier techniques. Now, although we don't see Yuta's domain, he does cast it in the Culling games, and we can use the knowledge from Shinjuku Showdown to clarify what it does and how it works. Yuta's domain allows for him to use any curse technique he has copied in dozens of katanas and use it to attack the opponent. Along with this, he has a plethora of curse techniques. I'll just name off of a few. Yuta has curse speech, sky manipulation, and Daru's technique. And Yuta also has Rika as well. Rika can store up cursed tools for Yuta to use at will with absolutely no problems. Kashimo, on the other hand, does not display his curse technique in Culling games and only uses curse energy trait birthed from that technique. Kashimo as well has Hollow Wicker Basket, which is a simple domain that is a counter against the short hit of a domain. Now, after going over everything, let's talk about how they would actually do if they fought against each other. So, getting into how they would pair up against each other, the fight could go a few ways actually. Yuta does have a higher output and by far the better reinforcement, so in terms of speed and power, Yuta should be undeniably higher than Kashimo. I also think it's to a noticeable degree to his scaling to Ryu. Although I do think Kashimo's curse energy trait could deem a problem, but I do think Yuta could outlast Kashimo and just chip away at him in a head-on-head fight. But this is of course assuming Rika is not fully manifested. If Rika is fully manifested, it becomes a big problem for Kashimo, since he then has to do with another Yuta in a sense, arguably a more annoying one since Rika is a cursed spirit with no rationality. But that isn't even the biggest issue. When Rika is manifested, Yuta can use the curse techniques she saved up for him, meaning Yuta could use sky manipulation to just break through Kashimo's defenses and hit him with Ice Thin Breaker, which I think due to the difference in output and reinforcement would do crazy damage. Yes, Kashimo does have RCT, but it would tire him out way faster if he keeps having to heal Yuta's damage done to him. Yuta also has Curse Speech, which he can use in a similar manner to what he does to Uro when he tells her not to move. If that's the case, then Kashimo just gets absolutely pummeled by Yuta and Rika like Uro does. Then the worst possible scenario for Kashimo is if Yuta casts a domain expansion, and I'll explain why. Now, although Kashimo does have Hollow Wicker Basket, and this is due to a future reference in the Shinjuku Showdown, that a Hollow Wicker Basket will always lose to a domain due to the difference in output. The reason this is so bad for Kashimo isn't even due to the short hit, but the fact that Yuta himself and his techniques would be way stronger, to the point where he'd just be absolutely able to shit on Kashimo. Now, Kashimo is a smart fighter, don't get me wrong, but the difference between Yuta and Hikari's scaling is as clear as the sky, and this isn't Hikari Kashimo's fighting. I will say, Kashimo's only way of winning confidently is using his cursed tool to try and sneak Yuta, just like he did Hikari, but that's even put into question when you realize how high Yuta's sensory ability really is. Since while he's fighting Kuro, he was able to quickly realize he was being watched, and this is from a further distance than the attack Kashimo did with this tool, so even that is iffy. Just in general, I think Yuta is the clear winner, and I don't think it's close whatsoever. But that is my verdict. I do think Yuta is the winner of this one. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments on this video. Jujutsu Kaisen content will be more consistent on my channel. I'm going to try and spread out a little bit more for you guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. And again, like I said in the beginning, if you liked it, I'd appreciate a sub. We're very close to 2.7K, but hopefully this year we can get up that number up. I hope you guys can help me a little bit with that. But as usual, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.